NC State feels like they are exactly where they expected to be at this point in the year. Undefeated. They had this one circled at the beginning of the year as sort of the fork in the road for their program. And a lot of people forget NC State won this game a season ago. Tell you who didn't forget, everybody in that NC State locker room. And they are very much trying to prove again to the nation that they're here. That wasn't a fluke last year. They're trying to be the big dogs in the ACC, and it's hard to blame them. For Clemson, I had the conversation with Matt Conley from Clemson Sports about, hey, you had a really emotional game last week if you're Clemson. Is there any possibility that there's sort of that emotional letdown? And he just sort of chuckled and said, no. This rivalry game, the bad blood that's gone into this rivalry game the past few years, Clemson will get up for it. And I 1,000% agree. I've talked to him a little bit more. For NC State, can the pass game be an advantage? Because we saw last week, Clemson got 50-50'd to death. I mean, Wake Forest and Sam Hartman was setting school records for passing touchdowns. They were able to really take advantage of that secondary. Now, Clemson feels like they're going to have some guys back. They said that last week too, but they're young last week. Maybe those young guys play again. Sort of a mystery as to who they'll have available. But for Clemson, they're not quite as concerned given the playmakers for NC State. Tell you who they should be concerned about, though, Devin Leary, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think this is the game where he has to step up and prove to the nation and validate to the nation all of the preseason hype that he got. So they're going to try and test that secondary like we already talked about, but I'm curious to see how much the weather impacts that variable. Now, on the defensive side of the ball for NC State, DJ Uiagalelei has played pretty well for Clemson, but the NC State defense is sort of watching that tape and saying, okay, did that against Wake Forest, did that against Furman. That's fine. It's all well and good. That's fine. You haven't played a defense like us. You haven't seen a unit like us just yet. And so you could look at this two ways. You could say, okay, for DJ Uiagalelei, he sort of built his confidence. He's worked up different levels of difficulty to now play this NC State defense. Or you could say, NC State's going to have that shock factor. That's going to be available. And I think both of those are very real. I'm just interested to see which one of those rears its head first. For Clemson, it can't be the same script as last week. You can't get gashed over the top over and over again. And on the offensive side, I don't think you can really exploit what you exploited last week either. The length of those tight ends and receivers for Clemson was really the ace in the hole for them last week. I don't think that's going to be something that's available. No knock on Wake Forest, but like we just talked about, NC State's defense is a different animal. With the weather coming down to likely being pretty soggy, to say the least, I mean, you're going to have to be able to run the football in this game consistently. So whether that's NC State, whether it's Clemson, whoever can put themselves in more favorable situations running the football will likely have a better chance to win this game. Now, here's what I will say. Games like this, where it's stormy conditions and the ball is slick and you're running it first, second, sometimes even third down, oftentimes, as weird as it sounds to say, comes down to your quarterback making a play on a passing down late in the game. When it's DJ Uiagalelei or whether it's Devin Leary, one of these cats will have to make a play to win this game for their football team. So I think it ultimately comes down to who do you like. Maybe you flip that conversation and say, who do you like defensively in that situation? As a whole, when it comes to the rain and it comes to the environment and the atmosphere, it's tough to go into Death Valley, period, let alone go into Death Valley at night. I think Clemson is continuing to work up to a game like this based on what we've seen from them. I think they're tired of hearing about little old Clemson, all the doubt around their program and doubt around their offense and this, that, and the other. I think this is the game where Clemson sort of flexes their muscles, straightens their back, puffs out their chest a little bit, and reclaims, I don't want to say supremacy, but that they reclaim sort of their authority over what they believe is theirs. And I think they end up winning this game. Now, let's say this. If Clemson is to win this game, think about what that would mean for this Dabo Swinney coach football team. all the conversations in the offseason about the offense not being good enough and can they hold up this, that, and the other. If they win this game, that tells me a couple of things. That DJ Uiagalelei is good enough to get them to where they want to go, because they're not going to see defenses a whole lot better than NC State the rest of the way until they get to, you would imagine, ACC title game, maybe even the college football playoff, whole nother conversation for another time. But you can win with DJ. I think it also means that your coordinators are far along enough to where you are able to win these kind of games. Because Wes Goodwin last week, I was unimpressed. And I am not going to go here and say that I know Clemson's defense inside and out like he does. But multiple times they were sitting in man-to-man, and Wake Forest was just having whatever they wanted over the top. And in this game, Wes Goodwin will have to be able to adjust, because they were having holes just poked left and right in that raft, and they were taking on water until they finally adjusted and got out of that man-to-man. If that's the case in this game, they need to make sure that they adjust quickly. And I think to win this game, that will have to have been the case. But again, we think Clemson wins this game. We think they find a way to get enough plays, which is funny as it sounds, they get enough plays at the end of the game from DJ Uiagalelei. They get enough from the running game that steps up consistency-wise. Clemson ends up winning this game in an ugly fashion, slippery, sliding conditions, 20-17 in Death Valley. Regardless, though, that's going to be a good one to watch as well. I'm telling you, there is no shortage of good matchups. There never is. The numbers next to the name don't mean a whole lot. Just turn on the television and enjoy what's about to go down. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.